Narayanam Namasitam Naram Cheva Narotamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayodhira Nishtapreshu Bhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevya Bhagavati Tamashuki Bhaktir Bhavati Naistaki Nigama Kalparurugaritam Param Shukumakaram Itadravi Samitam Pibata Bhagatam Rashamayaniyo Mahuruhu Rishika Bhubi Bhavakaham Krishna Swadam Apagate Damagvinhi Shaha Karunasta Dushamasha Paranako Dunodidaham Ramapiya Dabashuta Vishutam Vivo Samyapita Vidokiram Prakyahitu Humor Sanklation of Anamasanti Nanyataham Om Ganati Miranda Shanganangana Sadakya Chaksurun Minitam Yanatashmai Sri Gurave Namaham Sri Chaitanya Marobhistam Stapitam Yadabhutade Swayam Rupakaramayam Darati Swaparadikam Mandeham Sri Guru Siyata Parakamaram Sri Gurun Vaishnavam Scha Sri Rupam Sagatatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Stam Sadevam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitam Stam Nama Om Vishnu Paraya Krishna Pastaya Bhutade Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinamani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishes Sanyavadi Praskita Desatani Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Welcome to Wisdom Wednesday. Ram Kishore, Hare Krishna, please accept my obeisances. Raleigh, Hare Krishna. Govindadev, Hare Krishna. Sundari Priya, Hare Krishna, as well as Sachi, Radhe Sham, Jimmy and Taruni, Chris, Sanjay Sharma. Thank you all for joining us on this Wisdom Wednesday. We decided to try the virtual background again. There are some shortcomings. Just if you like the virtual background, work with me on this, okay? Don't take a screenshot of times when my arms are missing or my head's missing and post it all over the internet, okay? If you agree not to do that, I'll agree to leave this beautiful picture of the temple in the background with Krishna in the sky with diamonds there playing on his flute. It's not perfect, but the light is getting brighter earlier in the day as the days get longer. So it's beginning to be feasible to put the virtual backgrounds here, which I always enjoy in spite of the disappearing act. I have to share one more thing with you, and let me announce first of all that this is Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's Disappearance Day. Saraswati is a goddess of learning, and so this is Wisdom Wednesday. That fits very well. And we'll have a word or two to say about the guru of our guru. But first, I just want to share one thing with you, personal. Yesterday, I had my post-op appointment with the doctor 1 week after having had cataract surgery in the left eye without glasses. For the left eye, I don't even need glasses. I've been trying to pop this lens out because I don't really need it. But I'm sitting there, and without glasses, and with the left eye and the right eye covered, I was able to read even the smallest print in the chart. Tiny, tiny print. It was crystal clear to me. I don't even think I had this good vision in my left eye when I was 20 years old. And that's important for someone who's a lifelong reader. Every day of my life, I've read for 2 or 3 hours. So of all the different parts of my anatomy, to me, the eyes are the most important. And it's the most significant thing to me that I've gotten a new lease on my left eye, and also the option that when the right eye gets too foggy, the same thing can be done by Dr. Bruckner at Hoops Vision up in Salt Lake City. Great company, great people. I read somewhere that 50% of high school graduates never read another book in their lives. Can you believe that? That means the only reason they ever read a book in the first place was to get their degree because someone forced them to, because they had to. They had no innate appreciation of or enjoyment of reading. I can say without any hesitation But reading is the greatest enjoyment of my life, especially when you're reading Bhagavad Tapta. You're reading about the absolute truth. When you read, you're also hearing. You're not just using your eyes, but you're also, as you're watching, as you're looking at the print and running through the print, you're also hearing a voice in your head as well. So reading is also Shravanam Kirtanam, and reading leads to Vishnu Smaranam as well. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Parasevanam Sakyam Atmanivedanam. So you've got a smiling Caru on this Wisdom Wednesday, and it's an auspicious time because it's the time that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta went back to the spiritual world. Bhaktisiddhanta is the guru of Srila Prabhupada, and in fact his disappearance blends very nicely into the theme that we've been discussing the last couple of days, which is the mercy, the kindness of the illuminated souls. Srila Vyasadeva foresaw all the anomalies of the Kali Yuga age. He felt great empathy for the living beings who are going to suffer from all of the discrepancies in this current winter season of the cosmos. And he racked his mind, taxed his brain to see how he could alleviate the suffering of the living beings. And the Srimad Bhagavatam, which we're going through day by day, was his answer. So if you want relief, anarto pashamam shakshad bhakti yogam loka sajjanato sattvi sattvata samitam, this sattvata samitam, this purest of all Puranas, which deals only with unalloyed bhakti, devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, will relieve you of all unwanted things, anything which is going to be a drag or a distraction on your progressive march back to home, back to Godhead, where life is eternal, full of bliss and knowledge, is kicked out. Sorry for my hand disappearing. It's kicked out of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So to relieve oneself of all miseries, simply read the Srimad Bhagavatam. And who is qualified to read the Srimad Bhagavatam? Everybody. You don't have to be a big scholar, a big intellectual. There's all kinds of stories, there's poems, there's something for everybody in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Thank you, Jai Shri Radhe. She's always refreshing. I don't know, we have a very good internet connection here. It's Comcast, it's wired, blazingly fast. So I'm not sure why we're cutting in and out on your end. Both Jai Shri Radhe and Jean mentioned that yesterday. Divya Joshi, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for the 11 comments that we have already. Our head at the lotus feet of Dinabandhu Das, who has the dust of Vrindavan, the dust of Vrindavan is part of the cells of Dinabandhu Das's body. He is so in tune with and so much a part of the holy land of Vrindavan. When we think of Vrindavan, we think of Dinabandhu. He knows every nook and cranny, every special place. He's been in association with the sacred dust of Vrindavan for the last, 40 or 50 years. Our obeisances, Om Tad Vishnu Paramam Param Sarabasanti Surya. Please give us the dust of your feet so we may say something illuminating and uplifting here on Bhaktisiddhanta's appearance day. Manohar Das, thank you also for joining us. Now we've got Sachi and Pradyumna, so we might see some verses flying forth here. Nesham Matish Tavada Kurman Sprisiti Anardra Padiyasham Padara Shobisham Diskinchanam Na Narvitanat. We take the dust of the lotus feet of the more advanced devotees on our head in order to achieve and hope for success in spiritual life. There's no more knowledgeable devotee, there's no one more responsible for spreading Krishna consciousness to ourselves, for reaching our doorstep here in the fallen Western countries, and His Divine Grace, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And I would say, of course, no one except Prabhupada, second only to Prabhupada. But what would Prabhupada say? Prabhupada would say that all of his success was only due to Bhaktisiddhanta. Prabhupada personally claimed no credit for all the success he had in making disciples and establishing temples. He said it is only by the grace of the spiritual master, and it's true. Yabhishatmaka buddhi ekakura bahushaka buddhi avivashayanam. Guru will never give you an instruction without also giving you the potency to fulfill that instruction. And that's what we're talking about this week. We're talking about plugging into the power, the superpowers, which are available to devotees of the Lord. But first of all, before I get launched here, before I heat up, go into my riff, I want to read the last letter that our Prabhupada received from his Prabhupada in 1936. This is taken from a lecture that Prabhupada gave in Los Angeles in February 7th, 1969. Prabhupada says, in 1936, just on the 13th of December, I wrote him, Bhaktisiddhanta, one letter. Not 13th, I think by the beginning of this December. So Prabhupada had written a letter to his guru in December 1936. And the reason he wrote the letter, he said, I knew that he was little kind upon me. So I wrote that quote, Guru Maharaj, you have got so many disciples, and I am also one of them. But they are doing direct service to you. Some of them are brahmacharis, some of them are sannyasis. But I am a householder. I cannot do what they are doing. End quote. Of course, Prabhupada says, I was giving sometimes donations, but I could not give any direct service. So I asked him, is there any particular service I can do for you? So that letter was replied in 13th of December from where Bhaktisiddhanta was staying in Puri, and he passed away on 31st of December, just a fortnight later. So the reply, our Prabhupada says, was the same instruction that he got when he met his guru in 1922. With his friend Narendranath, they came to where Bhaktisiddhanta was on the upper floor of a residence in Calcutta. They bowed down, and before they'd even arisen from their pranams, Bhaktisiddhanta said, you are educated, boy, why don't you preach the gospel of Bhagavad Gita in the English-speaking world? So Prabhupada said, again, 1936, 2 weeks before he passed away, Bhaktisiddhanta replied Prabhupada's own letter. Prabhupada asked, what can I do? And Bhaktisiddhanta gave him the same instruction. This is it, word for word. You try to preach whatever you've learned from me in the English knowing, to the English knowing people in English. That will do good to you and to the people to whom you shall preach. That is my instruction. Repeated, underlined, accented, reiterated. Our Prabhupada only ever got one instruction from his Prabhupada, and it was repeated and emphasized. Go and preach in the Western world. And Prabhupada credited all his success to his guru because he took the orders of his guru on his head, and in spite of advanced age, in spite of poor health, in spite of lack of finances, lack of support, lack of connections, he had faith in the order of his guru and his ability to fulfill the order of his guru according to the power of his guru. So that's the secret, how it is that devotees of the Lord attain superpowers. We ourselves are infinitesimal. We're not particularly significant in the overall scheme of things. However, you have the option of plugging in to the chain of succession, which goes through the chain of realized souls. Each and every one of us performed miraculous service for the Lord, done beyond what is humanly and physically possible, either in terms of establishing temples, or initiating disciples, or writing books, or even just going deep, even as a solitary practitioner like Gorkishore Das Babaji, going deep, deep, deep into the relishing and the chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Each and every one of the representatives of the unbroken chain of disciplic succession, extending back to the Lord himself, plugged in, exhibited superpowers in one shape, way, or form or another, according to the time and place and circumstances. And of course, the source, the ultimate powerhouse, from which all power, the Kevalis me Bhagavatasyarisam Sabai Badam Badam Chapesharam Pare Pare Mistira Jangame Brahmadyo Yena Vishampradam. When Hiranyakashipu asked his 5-year-old son, Hiranyakashipu's got all this black magic, mystic, yogic power. He defeated Indra, defeated Caru, Kuvera, defeated Varuna, sitting on the throne of Indra, and he can't kill his 5-year-old son. He's killed all kinds of powerful soldiers and wizards, veteran warriors. He can't lay a finger on his 5-year-old son. It's like, where do you get your power from? The Kevalis Mebag Prahlad says, I get my power from the same place you get your power. In fact, we all get our power from the same place. So if you're interested in superpowers, you like the Power Rangers, you like Spider-Man, you like Superman, you're one of the up-and-coming generations that was nourished and spawned on the stories of superheroes. What do they call them now? The Transformers. If that attracts you, becoming more than just you, little old you, then take power from the supreme source of all power, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And how do we get that power? There's only one way. It's like electricity is everywhere, but there's only one way to connect. You have to install an outlet in the wall, and that outlet has to be connected to the powerhouse. Then you can plug in and you can drive all kinds of appliances. You can access as little or as much of the energy coming from the powerhouse as you need to perform any particular task. So it is, the secret is evam parampara praptam imam reja sakala namada yoga nashta parantapa. Krishna says, I originally empowered Vibhishwan, the sun god. Vibhishwan empowered, passed on like an electric wire. He passed that on to Manu. Manu passed it on to Ikshvaku, unless it came down in disciplic session. And he says, yoga bhakta bhakta sime sakachati rahasya tedurtaman. And Arjuna, today I'm passing that power on to you because it was broken in due course of time. We have this verse in the Bhagavad Gita, 11th chapter, 7th verse. Ikaikashtam jagat kritsnim pasyajha sa characharam mama dehe guda kesha nachane andrashtam ichashi. Now, before I explain the verse, one word jumps out at me, Gudakesha. That means one who has conquered sleep. Krishna is addressing Arjuna as Gudakesha. That means Arjuna doesn't have to sleep. Now, that's a superpower, right? Imagine how much we could get done if we didn't have to sleep. I get up at 5, I chant my rounds, I chant slokas from the Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. I go on my treadmill, I walk 8 or 10 miles in the morning, try to do some little resistance training. Then I give this class, and then I respond to all of you. And then I have to prepare the weekend classes. I like to learn new verses every day, read some new literature. I like to listen to at least 1 or 2 other lectures a day from Chaitanya Charan, Amarendra, Gauranga, some luminaries like that, Sutapa, Surapal in London. There's so many learned scholars that we enrich ourselves by associating with them. And you know, there's just not enough time in the day, and we don't have enough energy. You know, we get tired 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and then that keenness, that sharpness of mind has become dull. No, I don't want to learn any more verses. I don't want to chant. I just want to do something easy and mindless and all. But Arjuna didn't have to sleep. Prabhupada himself slept only 3 hours a night. He said, sleeping is ignorance. When you're alight, when you're on fire, to enrich yourself with more and more Krishna consciousness, and then to be a light to others. As you enlighten yourself, then you shine to others. This is our addiction. This is our passion. So darkness, sleep, falling in ignorance for 6, 7 hours a day, it's like unwanted. If you could do away with that, you would in a second. And Arjuna was capable of doing that. Krishna addressed him as Gudakesha. And as Krishna calls Arjuna Gudakesha, he's also reminding Arjuna that how can anyone not sleep? It's not possible for an ordinary person to not sleep. They've done studies. They've deprived people of sleep and they've gone mad, stark, raving mad. They have to give them sleep to protect their sanity. So it's not possible for an ordinary person to go without sleep. So Krishna addresses Arjuna, go to Kesha, he who has conquered over sleep. And Krishna is indicating indirectly that power of Arjuna to use all 24 hours of every day in his own enrichment and in the service of mankind in general, that power comes from the same place that all other powers come from. Krishna, who happens to be standing right before Arjuna on the chariot. And why is Krishna standing right before Arjuna on the chariot? Savayamatiram yoga prakta paratara bhakta sime sakachiti rahasyamitu. I'm standing before you, imparting these confidential truths because you are my devotee as well as my friend. You want superpowers? Plug in to Krishna in favorable, loving, devotional service. Someone says, well, isn't that pretty pretentious to want to be a friend of Krishna? Not when God's on his knees, not when he's come all the way from the spiritual world specifically for that purpose, not when he's canvassing, not when he's begging you to be his friend. Then it's pretentious not to follow. God's on begging knee, asking you, please cultivate friendship with me, and you're saying, no, I don't think so, I'm not very interested. Now, which is more offensive? To begin Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, to cultivate friendship, favorable relations with the Lord by honoring him with his holy name, taking sumptuous prasadam, vegetarian food is offered, associated with devotees, reading Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya and Rita, or to show indifference. Which is more offensive? We'd be better off following the instructions of the Lord. Thanks, Prashant. Prashant's come up with all the quotes here. Bipin Shah, thanks for jumping on. Bhakti Gary, appreciate your being with us. Rajapati Sutta from all the way on the other side of the world. Adina Bandhu, still with us, apparently. So, what are some other ways in which the superpowers that Krishna has given to Arjuna are manifested? One, of course, is that he goes without sleep. The other is he's seeing Krishna in his universal form while he's sitting on the chariot. Now, who can see the entire universe while sitting in one place? You ever see a Facebook post from anybody with a few pictures to prove it? Yeah, yesterday I saw the whole universe while I was sitting in my living room, or I was on my backyard in the chaise lounge, and the whole universe, Shvabhuva, demigods, upper, middle, lower planetary systems, all became manifest to me. I saw the past. I saw in the 1900s, the 1800s. I saw 1,000 years ago. I saw in the 2040s and the 2050s and 60s. I saw 1,000 years from now. Yeah, I saw it just while I was sitting, in my lawn chair in the backyard. Anybody ever seen a Facebook post like that? I don't think so. So who does that? Who does that? Nobody. Nobody. Krishna says in this verse, Ihaikashtam jagat krishnam prashadya sacharacharam mama dehe gudakesha yakschanyadrashtamichati. O Arjuna, whatever you wish to see. Did you ever wish to see things past, present, future, across the globe, on the other side of the universe, in the spiritual world? Did you ever want to see things? Did you ever hanker after expanding your consciousness, throwing off the limitations of this material body and these weak senses that we have? Do you ever wish to go beyond the boundaries of the physical and the mental? Well, that's possible through devotional service, favorable devotional service to the Supreme Lord. Arjuna is an intimate friend of the Lord, and therefore the Lord says to Arjuna, whatever you wish to see, behold at once this universal form of mind. This universal form can show you whatever you desire to see and whatever you may desire to see in the future. Everything, moving and non-moving, is here completely, not partially, not fragmentally. Everything here is complete in one place. Arjuna is on the chariot. Krishna is revealing his universal form, many arms, many mouths, many heads, many legs. There's fire coming from his mouth. He sees the Kauravas rushing, being crushed in the teeth of the Lord. He knows in advance that the victory will be his and his brothers, and the Pandavas will be destroyed and they'll be bereft of their power. And he also sees in that form, as well as past, present, and future, he sees in that form himself standing on the chariot looking at Krishna. And in that manifestation, he also sees inside of that Krishna himself standing in the chariot looking at Krishna as well. And then Krishna declares, Kalo Shmi Loka Saya Kri Pravado Loka Samari Pravada Rita Vitam da Vivishadar Sevastita Pratinika Shoyo. Kalo Shmi Loka Saya. Time I am. How is it that time is so insurmountable? How is it that nobody can overcome the influence of time? Yatasha Hidova Ridir Dhruva Janma Tajmarutishta Panti Yadhaya Kritanishayam. Krishna says, he says that for one who is born, death is certain. That we commonly know. Krishna goes on to say that for one who has died, birth is certain. Nobody can escape the physical bookmarks of birth and death, and then death and birth. Therefore, you should just go ahead and do your duty, and without any second guessing or great prestidigination about it. Just go ahead and perform your duty, because there's no reason, in fact, not to do your duty. Krishna says, I have come to destroy all people. I have come to engage all people. With the exception of you, the Pandavas, all soldiers on both sides will be slain. Here's another superpower. Facing the Pandavas, Bhisma. I heard a talk the other night where the devotee, I don't know where he got the information from, but he said Bhisma was more than 25,000 Arjunas. Bhisma was purported to be much more powerful. Tadabasamnita gira shahashari vimukta sangam manai krishnadashat pitapate chotabush parastita. Bhisma had superpowers. Krishna came and stood before Bhisma at the time of his leaving his body, this man who had fought thousands of battles and spoke authoritatively on thousands and thousands of subject matters. The Mahabharata is 12 volumes long, the Ganguly translation in English. 12 800-page volumes long, and 3 of those volumes are just Bhisma speaking on his deathbed, punctured through and through by arrows. Bhisma had superpowers due to the mercy of Krishna. So even though Bhisma, from one point of view, is much more powerful than Arjuna, for the purposes of paritranaya sadhana vinashya dushkatam, protecting the devotees and annihilating the miscreants, inasmuch as Bhisma, by force of circumstances, and also according to the rasa of the Lord, found himself opposing the Lord and Krishna and Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So for his purposes, then Krishna transferred all of his power into the body of Arjuna and enabled him to defeat Bhisma, who normally was unconquerable. So that is a super 8,400,000. Wait a minute. There were 18 Aksahinis. The battle of Kurukshetra lasted 18 days. There were 18 Aksahinis. There were 205,000 soldiers in an Aksahini, divided into elephant, charioteer, infantry, and cavalry. And the Kauravas had 11, I believe, and the Pandavas only had 7. So they outnumbered 3-2. And you had, on the other side, champions who were, on any given day, more than Arjuna, who was Karna, and then there was Bhisma, there Dronacharya, all 3 of those could have defeated Arjuna on a certain given day. And then you had no slouches in the form of Duryodhana, Ashwatthama, Sakuni, Bhurishrava. So from a natural point of view, the Pandavas didn't really have a chance. They'd been living in the forest, eating fruits and berries. They were weakened by their austerities and by their exile, whereas the Kauravas and their minions were eating good food. They had the state-of-the-art Basu, Gold's Gym. They had sparring partners. They had great horses with which they could go and practice their skills of warfare and martial arts. They were consolidating their forces. Everything was in favor of Duryodhana, and everything was apparently against the chances of success on the side of the Pandavas. And yet Krishna, even before the first arrow was shot, before the first javelin was thrown, before the conch shell was blown, before the onset of the hostilities, Krishna is already supernaturally giving Arjuna a vision of his victories. Krishna says to him from the universal form, with the exception of you, the Pandavas, I have all the soldiers here on both sides will be slain. Prabhupada says, another name of the Paramatma feature of the Lord is Kala, or eternal time. Not only does this time cause everyone to rush towards their ultimate destruction, and devotees are no exception. Having been born, we'll die. But that's where the comparison ends. All living beings have been born who are present on the earth now, and everyone who's born will die. Devotees are no exception. But the second part of that shloka from Bhagavad Gita does not apply to devotees. It says everyone who dies will be born. That's the escape hatch of those who are engaged in favorable devotional service to the Lord, following in the footsteps of Arjuna. Otherwise, those who are out of the shelter and the protection of the Lord, those who are disconnected with the Lord, cannot hope to have any superpowers. You know, we have all these fanciful heroes in comic books. We have Tom Cruise on a big, huge screen, 20-foot tall, jumping off of mountains and helicopters and doing flips with motorcycles and airplanes. And it's just fake. It's just delusion. One time when I was younger, I was traveling through Europe. It's kind of a long story. I'm trying to make it short as I can. I met in Paris. I left the country during the Vietnam War. I was gone for 8 years. So I spent 6 months in Paris, and I met a family, quite well-to-do family. His name was Clement Biddle Woods. You can tell from the name comes from blue-blooded American stock, New England stock. Clement Biddle Woods, we just called him Clem. And he was a screenwriter. He'd written the script for Barbarella, and he wrote the screenplay for a movie called Michael Kohlhaas. And so I met them in Paris, and then they had a home. They had another home in Greece, Spetses, on the island of Spetses. So they invited me along for 6 weeks in Spetses, and I would tutor their 4 kids, for room and board and all. And then from there, I went on to India for the first time in 1969. But as we traveled from Paris to Greece, he had to stop in Hungary in a place called Bratislava, where they were filming this film based on his screenplay. It was about a Czechoslovakian hero called Mikhail Kohlhaas. I think if you pronounce it properly, Mikhail Kohlhaas. So we stayed there for a couple of days at the motel and all, and he was on the scene, and they filmed the battle scene. There was a big battle scene. And so they filmed the battle scene. And of course, the finished product, when you go and sit in the theater and there's a big screen, it's very exciting. You know, there's sword play, and there's galloping horses, and there's people that are hit with the sword or the pike or the shield, and they flip backwards off of their horses, and they hit the ground, and there's horses that slide, and it's just like so much action compressed and packed in. But During the 3 days that we watched the battle scene being filmed, it was like one of the most, can I tell you, boring 3 days of my life. It was like, it is a total illusion. The Tom Cruise feats, the battles, the martial art fights, the Jackie Chan's, the what's the guy's name? Uh, Kill Bill, the famous eccentric filmmaker. It's, you know, you break it down into all of its different parts, and it's just like I'd rather watch paint dry, to be honest with you. So these so-called heroes that Hollywood and Bollywood manufacture, they're not any such thing of the sort. They're not any such thing of the sort. It's all just fake. It's all just phantasmagoria. It's just pumping you up. It's actually dangerous and misleading. It's pumping you up to think that on your own you have superpowers, and you don't. You don't have superpower, even if you get hit by lightning. Uh, however way that, according to this wishful thinking, that people like Tom Cruise and others come into superpowers, it's all misleading. It's all bogus. It's a grand illusion. The only way that you can come into superpowers is connect with the Supreme Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidan Anadhiri Govana Sarvakaranakam. Krishna is the Lord of all lords. Any power that anybody else has to have originated from and come from Krishna. So if you shelter under his lotus feet and engage in his favorable devotional service, then he will protect you. But if you're detached, if you buy into this cultural mass hypnosis, grand illusion that we, just because we were born in America, just because we have a certain ethnicity, we have a white man's burden, there's white supremacy or black power or yellow, whatever it is, it's all just nonsense is all it is. If you buy into that, then not only do you not awaken any sort of superpowers, but you become ineffectual, weak, of no import whatsoever. When a leaf detaches itself from the tree, it gets yellow, it wrinkles, it dries up, it has no value whatsoever. You just try and figure out how to get rid of it. Sweep it up, put it in a garbage bag, throw it in a dumpster, or if there's no wind, you can burn the leaves. It's just how to get rid of them. Make them compost, maybe. But a leaf that's attached to the tree is vibrant, it's shiny, it's smooth, it's green, it's full of life and vigor and energy. So there's only one way to get superpowers. If you want to be more than the physical you, the mental you want to be more than just one of the 6 billion living beings who make up this planet, little grasping, greedy, lusty little things. Each one is trying to steal as much of God's property as you can. Ishtan Bogani Bove Dashanta. And because of that stealing mentality, we're out of favor with God. We're out of sync with the universe. We're outlaws. We're outlaws. Basically, we don't care for God. We don't care to sync with him. We don't care to follow his laws. Then the results that come to you, the unfavorable, unwanted results, are also an indication of the power of the Lord. He's present within the heart of every living being as a supersoul. In the Bhagavad Gita, 23rd verse, 13th chapter, Krishna says, Upadrasht anamartyacha bharta bhoktamat paramatmi chapi dehishmin purusham pashuhum. I am situated in every heart along with the individual soul as the transcendental enjoyer, the proprietor, the owner of our bodies and all bodies, who exists as the overseer and permitter known as a supersoul, and he witnesses our activities. So someone who's out of sync, who doesn't care for the supremacy of the Lord, the devotional service of the Lord, may say, Caru, how can you say that these pains, these sufferings, this pandemic comes upon me as a result of past deeds? How can you say that I'm suffering or being punished for lapses in God consciousness and transgressions of the universal laws in a past life when I don't even remember them? True, if I'm going to be convicted and punished, there has to be some witness in the courtroom. You may suspect an accused person of all kinds of crimes, but the only way you can convict them and punish them is if you bring witnesses. Only when there's a testimony of witnesses can anyone be punished. It's called due process. So similarly, one says, how can I be punished when I don't remember what it was I did in the past? That's okay. You may not remember, but there is one who is never disassociated with you, who always accompanies you in lifetime after lifetime. And unlike you, he's never forgetful. He knows everything, past, present, and future. You're only aware of the pains and pleasures of this present body at this point in time. You would be challenged to remember what you were doing at this time a week ago, or even 3 days ago, or even this time yesterday. But the Lord knows everything that you've ever done. He knows everything that every living being has ever done and will ever do, past, present, and future. So there is a very confident witness. He gets it right every time. They always talk about witnesses having different stories. Well, he was tall and dark. No, he was medium height and he had blonde hair. He was wearing a black jacket. No, he was wearing a gray jacket. It's almost a cliche to say that all the witnesses saw something different. But you have the most reliable witness in the form of the super soul living within your heart. You may do something at night when the sun cannot witness what you're doing. Or you may do something during the day when the moon cannot witness what you're doing. But both the sun and the moon are the eyes of God. So if one eye of God doesn't see, the other eye of God will see. You cannot do anything which is not witnessed by the Lord, day or night. And that is why the negative reactions to our past sinful activities come upon us. That is why not only do we not have superpowers, but actually whatever powers that God has originally gifted us with, whatever powers he's invested us in, has invested in us, will be taken away should we not use them to serve the Lord. So he is present within the individual hearts of all living beings. If you want to serve him, he becomes excited, he becomes impassioned, he goes ahead of you, makes crooked places straight, he lines up the right connections, he opens the right doors, he trips over himself to make you successful, just as he did with Srila Prabhupada. We came to Utah Valley, 1981. We had just put a small down payment on a radio station, 5 acres of land. Other than that, we had no money. We sold cookies. We did bake sales as our main source of income. We had no thought of building one, what to speak of 2 temples, what to speak of having a world-famous Festival of Colors, 7 different locations in 3 states. We had no idea, but we just tried something on behalf of the Lord. Our meditation was, we may be successful, we may fail, but we just want to always be connected with the Lord. I don't know what powers the Lord will give us, whether he'll enhance the powers that we have or whether he'll just leave them with us, but we don't want to go backwards. We want to go forwards. If you don't have as much success as you hope for, that means the Lord is getting you ready. He's maturing you. He's making you and molding you so that you will suddenly, sometime in the future, burst upon the scene. Or if, which is more the case with me and Bhai Bobby, we coming to a place with no resources, with no devotees, with no connections. Krishna caused us to have what I consider is amazing, almost supernatural success with temples and devotees, radio stations, festivals, and things like that. People say, Drew, how did you go to Utah where there was nothing and now you have a very, very substantial, viable mission? I say, I don't know. I didn't do it. It was the mercy. It was the grace of the Lord. People say, it's like supernatural. How does that happen? I don't know, but the Lord knows. And so if you want superpowers, if you resonate with Superman or Spider-Man or Transformers or the Power Rangers, take it from me, there's only one way to get superpowers. Any other way is going to cause you to go in the other direction. It's going to cause you to lose. It's going to cause the erosion of whatever powers Krishna gifted you with in the first place. The only way to retain what it is that you've had, to gain the favor of the source of all that power in such a way that he will then bless you with even more power to honor him in more and greater and more expansive ways, is to connect with him in devotional service through the chain of disciplic succession. It says, without the sanction of the supersoul, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the individual soul cannot do anything. The fact that I raise my arm is due to the sanction of the supersoul. The individual soul, such as you and I, we're bhukta. That means we're sustained. But the Lord is bhukta. He's the maintainer. Nitya nityanam chetana chetanam eko yovedadati kamam. That one singular, omniscient, omnipotent, loving Father of us all gives the plural living beings everything they need, not only for their maintenance, but everything they need to go from glory to glory, from victory to victory, from darkness to light, from temporality to eternity, from this world of birth, death, disease, and old age to the eternal lotus feet of his in the spiritual world where life is full of knowledge. So we'll stop there. We have so many more things that we could say on this subject matter. And what say you, Rob? You have any sagacious comments for us at the end of today's session?
Oh, my superpower is devotional service to Krishna. It's the best thing I could possibly do.
You know, Rob's been with us pretty faithfully. And before that, he was with Wisdom of Sages. In fact, most days he listens to Wisdom of Sages, which I think airs at 5 o'clock. What is it? 5 o'clock New York time, which makes it even earlier now. Anyway, I don't think he listened to it live, but he listens to it first, and then he jumps on with us here. And every time I've ever asked Rob for his comments, they've been very noteworthy. They've been very insightful. So here's a man who's nurturing his connection with Krishna very, very carefully. He's meditative. He's introspective. And I'm seeing the waxing of his powers, the waxing of his insights day by day. And I'm sure that that's no less true to say of those who join us on a regular basis or join any of these forums. There's so much going on during Corona now. It's transferred from the physical to the online, which means your audiences are potentially bigger, and a speaker can have more influence for the good. And so we wish what's happening to Rob, the transformative effects, the metamorphosis for the good, going to the next level for all of you. Omkar, Joshi, Madhavadas, Subhadra, Rajapati, Bhakti Gary, Rakesh, Ram Kishore, Dina Bandhu, Manohar, Sundari Priya, Sachi and Prashant, Radhe Sham, Jimmy and Taruni, Chris Castro, Sanjay Sharma, Raleigh, Pampadas, someone new, join us, and another new person, Akhil Misra, and then there's one more that I can't see, and then Jean Eskelson. Thank you all of those for being with us. Thank you for your comments. We hit a record, I think it was Monday, of 159 comments. You guys did 80, and then I responded to everyone. I don't know how it is, but I've heard that the more interaction, the more comments you have, the more it pushes up the algorithm in Facebook. But aside from that, when you comment, we learn a little bit about you. We become more of a tight-knit community here. We can't meet physically because of Corona, and also because many of you are as far away as Govardhan Echo Village, Malaysia, Phoenix, Arizona. So there are physical hurdles, but online we can become a very, very tight, close-knit community. Last Saturday, after I gave the talk in Salt Lake City, Govinda Bhakta, the Pujari there, he came up to me and said, I went to your Facebook page just to review the recording that you made, and who are all these people that are commenting? So many comments. I've never seen anything like that before. He said, you have a punchline, and they put in the punchline. I said, well, yeah, I mean, we're sharing, we're partners. It's not just a one-way street where I just, discourse, and it's not all about me. It's about those who are the recipients also, and it's about how they get back to me, how they respond. And of course, as we all respond, and as we're um, free with our comments and our disclosures about our own personal challenges and triumphs, we get to know each other. And that's the essence of devotional service. A satsange tyage Vaishnava Sri Sange Ekash Krishna Bhaktara is deepening and enriching and thickening your relationships with the other devotees, and thinning out, weaning yourself of the association of those who are disconnected from the unlimited power of the Lord. And therefore, not only are they not going to become more powerful, not only are they not going to access superpowers, but they're going to lose what they have. So the devotees, on the one hand, are becoming more and more and more, going from mountaintop to mountaintop, victory to victory, glory to glory, whereas the trajectory of those who are disconnected from the Lord is just the opposite. They're bouncing down the stairs, hitting every single stair on their way down. And we don't take any pleasure in that. We don't wish that on anyone. Otherwise, why would we be coming on 7 days a week with basically, we're messengers? Anjali always comments at the end of every program, Caru the postman. Yes, we're here to deliver you freedom. Kale doshani shasti. Kirtanyareva Krishna Mukta Sangha. In spite of all the negatives about this age, there is one great positive, and that is by chanting the holy names of the Lord, you can become free from all the negatives, including birth, death, disease, and old age. So that's what we're online for multiple times every week, consistently since Corona started. So please take it. You'll not be the loser, but you'll be the gainer millions and millions of times over. So we don't have Lakshmi here. I don't know. I don't feel particularly qualified, but I do have a little Casio here. So in as much as Lakshmi has set this standard, let's just see if I can have a minute or so of kirtan before we go away. This was Wisdom Wednesday, so I won't see some of you until next week. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare. One more time, okay? You can join me if you like out there. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare. Thank you, one and all, for Wisdom Wednesday, and I'll anticipate your comments as well, and get back to you this morning. And we'll see you on the weekend if you'd like to join us for any of our Chant for Change series of talks on Saturday or Sunday. We also have a Zoom Sangha every Sunday morning at 11. That'll be on Facebook Live as well. You can jump on the Zoom call itself. You can ask me for the meeting ID and the password. In the meantime, thank you all for being with us. Thank you. I think I've mentioned everybody's name already. We're up to 36 comments. If I add to them, it's 72. So go ahead and add a few extra comments. Tell us a little something about yourself. Tell us some of the things that you're struggling with, some of the things that you feel like you've put behind you, some of the challenges that you've achieved. If you feel that Krishna's giving you a superpower, or at least you feel like you're in the beginning of getting a superpower, well, share that with us too. And that's the theme of the day. And so you can add to our discussion, add to the comprehensiveness and the richness of our discussion. Thank you once again. Couldn't do what we do without your help and support. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindubhyavacha patitaram pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Rama, Hare